Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is very, very, very humid out. I just looked at the weather app and apparently it's like 83% humidity. Last night we got rain, which I'm very excited about. Almost a full inch. It was actually it was pretty much all of yesterday leading into last night. Like I said, almost a full inch. I was steady throughout the day. I'm pretty happy about that, which means the garden itself got a pretty good soak. I would have maybe preferred 2 inches, but I think that's just me being greedy. That being said, we'll probably get more rain Wednesday, Thursday, maybe into Friday, depending upon what this storm does that's down in the Gulf of Mexico. If you're elsewhere in the country, there's some sort of storm, hurricane, tropical depression, tropical storm, whatever it is right now, that's down by Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we get more rain. We'll have to see how that happens. It could be a lot, it could be a little, it could be a big storm. If it's something significant, like it's going to be, the apocalypse with trees falling down and 90-mile-per-hour winds, I'll be sure to do a video because I have a lot of stuff to clean up here in the garden. Like most gardeners, I have various tools and pots and all sorts of other stuff that's out and about laying around in the garden. That all becomes flying debris, which can damage things during a hurricane. Let alone, of course, you lose those items if they go someplace that you can't find them. Neighbor's yard 3 blocks away, So I will probably do some sort of video of me running around scrambling a lunatic trying to clean up all this stuff to make it more secure, so in case we do get hit with heavy winds. But I don't think that's going to be the case. That could be that's my opinion there, but we'll have to wait and see. I think over the next day or two, as the storm approaches Florida more and builds up strength in the Gulf of Mexico, the weather predictions will become more accurate and that cone will narrow, and then the weathermen will be able to forecast better and we'll be able to have a better idea as to what's going to happen here. Hopefully, it's just a rain event. And again, the garden could use it because prior to the rain last night, we hadn't had rain for about 3 weeks. I'm prattling on about rain, and I said I was going to give you a veg garden tour today. So let's get on with it. First and foremost, up here next to where the corn used to be, corn is long gone. I've tried planting some sunflowers. Unfortunately, I've had deer come in to the garden numerous times this year through various means, which I've been trying to seal up, deter them as it were. But they've eaten most of the sunflowers. I do have a couple that are trying to grow, but nothing for you to really look at this point. Hopefully in about a month's time, they're putting on a flower head. So we'll have to wait and see. Right here next to me, I have a watermelon patch. And right now I have 1, 2, 3 large watermelons, a couple of small ones, which I may want to just cutting out so the plant's not wasting its effort and energy trying to produce watermelons that I don't want or need. But yeah, 3 large rattlesnake watermelons. They're coming in to their own. They're probably gonna be ready for harvest in the next couple of weeks. That would be my guess. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Along the back, I again planted some sunflowers. Nothing really to look at this point because they're late season, so they're still small. But I'm hoping that I get some flowers out of them by, well, we're almost into September, October, November maybe. Again, our first freeze doesn't happen anywhere to mid to late November, depending upon which way the wind blows. Right here at the edge, I have a couple of pepper plants, and my only goal with the peppers this year was to leave them alone in the pots, let them grow, let them do their thing. If we got any peppers out of them, all is well. This one right here, I have a nice little green pepper, and it's supposed to be Big Rig sweet pepper, so that's pretty exciting. This pot right here has got various little small peppers on it. That one has got small peppers on it. I'm not a big pepper eater, so I'm not 100% sure as to what they're supposed to be doing, but the plants are alive. They're flowering and they're putting on fruit. And to me, as an inexperienced pepper grower, that's pretty exciting. Now I'm growing peppers in ground, and we'll get to that a little later on. But this is the really majority of the patch. The watermelons were planted here and they've just sort of grown everywhere, and I've kind of let them grow everywhere. I think somewhere down there might be some beets. Let's move a little further back. Back over here, I have lemon squash, and it produces a small yellow squash. I guess it kind of looks like a lemon, but my wife has been harvesting them and she says they taste delicious and they're very good. A couple of plants that I have been producing pretty prolifically. I think she's gotten at least 6 different fruits off of that. fruits, vegetables, whatever you want to call them. She's gotten at least 6 off, if not more. Right in front here, we have spaghetti squash. The spaghetti squash has been really weird. I've never grown spaghetti squash before. Squashes are not, again, novice gardener. There's so much to grow and so much to plant, and I haven't planted a lot of things that many of you probably have and are used to. So the spaghetti squash, it did produce quite a bit of fruit. Unfortunately, a lot of it seems to have gotten attacked or eaten by bugs, but the plant grows. That's a positive. So I might do this again next year, pay closer attention to it, and maybe grow it on a different type of trellising system, because this little rinky-dinky metal trellising system doesn't really seem to be cutting the mustard, as it were. Behind these zinnias right here is my Connecticut field pumpkin. And the vine is growing like mad this year, which is awesome. It took a little while to kick off, but eventually did, and it's grown like gangbusters. In fact, I've had to trim it back over by the peppers a few times because it just keeps wanting to grow and grow and grow and grow. That being said, ton of flowers. Bees love it. No fruit that I can see as of yet. No pumpkins. And I'm a little confused / disappointed. If this has ever happened to you before, let me know. I don't know if it's because of the heat. I don't know if it's because of the lack of moisture or too much moisture. I'm not sure why the vine would produce so much vine and so many flowers with no visible pumpkins. I don't know. I've grown pumpkins before. The only ones I grew successfully, to be fair, were the little Jack B. Littles. They seem to put on fruit pretty quickly and it was pretty visible. But these guys, not so much. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Again, if you have any ideas or clues, please leave a comment below. This is Lavender Queen Zinnia, in case you were wondering. It's quite nice. It's been just here, ornamental, attracting the bugs. Quite lovely. Let's go look at the peppers real quick. Down here at the end, I have several pepper plants in the ground. This one, which I'm not sure as to, I think this is the AGI Rico F1 pepper. This one seems to be pretty prolific. I should probably get in here and, I would say harvest, but it seems like everything that has gone red has either rotted on the plant or maybe it's gotten eaten by bugs. I'm not sure. But either way, there's lots of other little peppers on here that seem to be growing, which is nice. I did have some jalapenos, which I harvested. There were 3 of them, and of the 3, I think only one was good. So, but the plants are alive. They're growing in ground, which is always a plus. So now I know next year I can grow more peppers in ground, and I can grow them in pots. So it gives me some options and flexibility. So I will definitely grow peppers next year, and I think I will definitely pay closer attention to them so I can get a better harvest, or at least monitor closer what they're doing and if they're getting hit by bugs, and if so, which bugs. My guess would be the stink bugs. They are very prolific around here. The sunflowers have been keeping the long-legged leaf bugs off of a lot of the plants, which is great because they are they're worse than the stink bugs, I think. Both of those type of bugs, the stink bugs and the long-legged leaf bugs, they both basically take their little proboscis or whatever, stick it into the plant, start digesting the outer layers. It gets, you get a little soft spot that starts rotting. The whole fruit and vegetable is gone at that point. Either way, I'm going to now move on to the raised beds. In front of me here, these 2 beds, which are the closest to the grand walkway, furthest from the greenhouse here. This bed, I have some basil. I think it's cinnamon basil. And also I have a marigold, which its name eludes me at the moment, and I'm not going to go looking for the tag buried within the plant itself, but I do like the color. So I think I'll be planting that variety again next year. Very salmon-y. I don't know if that's going to come across in the video. Over here, I have a very sad looking Rudbeckia in this bed, which was supposed to have been replanted early summer, but it didn't happen and the temperatures got a little too warm and I wasn't feeling comfortable about replanting it at that time. So I'm leaving it in this bed until this heat breaks, which hopefully will be in the next couple of weeks. And then I'll probably plant the Rudbeckia into the front flower bed. Next to me here, growing up the trellis on this side, is probably one of the, or 2 of the most prolific cucumbers I've ever seen. Now, earlier in the season, I had green finger cucumber growing on this side. And green finger cucumber, in case you've never grown the variety before, is an almost seedless cucumber. The heat, though, took its toll on it eventually. It petered out. It produced a lot. But at the end, my wife was saying a lot of the fruit was getting very bitter. And my only guess is that's because of the heat. But if you think the fruit was getting bitter for a different reason, leave a comment below. I eat cucumber occasionally. I'm not a big cucumber fan. But the cucumbers come out. I had rattlesnake pole beans on this side. They all came out. This bed is essentially I'm not doing anything with it right now. And I don't know if I will do anything with this until next spring. I'll have to determine that in the near future. But on this side, I have green apple cucumber and Armenian yardlong. And both of them have just gone gangbusters. They both produce a ridiculous amount of flowers, and they're both overflowing the bed. I don't see any Armenian yardlongs right now, but they kind of look like a loofah. They can grow up to 3 feet long, hence the reason yardlong. My wife says they taste pretty nice. The green apple cucumber are small and they're apple-like, I guess. They're about the size of an apple. And my wife says they're absolutely delicious, and they've been fantastic throughout this entire heat wave that we've been having. Let's move on to the last 4 beds. Okay, so the next 2 beds, this bed over here, which had onions in it, had red onions in it. Well, they didn't grow. I don't know what happened. I'm going to try to replant. I bought a different variety of red onions from a local vendor, and I'm going to try to replant them in the next week or so, because theoretically I can plant onions in the fall, and I think they've already harvested in the spring. I'm not sure. I have to do a little more research on that, but I think that's what I'm going to do. So this bed will get cleaned out because it has some weeds in it right now, topped off with fresh raised bed mix, and then I will plant the seeds, and we'll see what happens. Seeds are cheap, so if I make a mistake or if they don't grow or whatever, I'll find out. You know, it's $1 or $2. It's not the end of the world. In this bed over here, I have finally, after 3 sowing attempts, I'm growing some Bush Lake 47 beans. Now, not all the beans germinated, and I had some problems with bugs and possibly the deer. But either way, they all seem to be growing quite well right now. So hopefully I can get a harvest of bush beans before the frost. That would be lovely, because I love myself some bush beans. Back over here, I have just a bed of flowers in this raised bed. It's kind of a mess, actually. I have the Crouching Tiger Zinnia, and they're doing quite well. They've been going all summer long. I have to actually get in here, do some deadheading, and maybe pulling some of this grass that's growing in this bed. My tomatoes, utter freaking disaster this year. I didn't pay as close attention to them as I should have. There was a lot of bug pressure. I planted them too closely together. Yeah, it's just a hot mess. So we're not even going to talk about my tomatoes. I did learn some lessons this year, which I will try to apply to next year. But the one thing I would have to take from the tomatoes this year is that Sophie does like to eat tomatoes. So the 2 or 3 that I've gotten that haven't been totally rotten, I've just cut the stem off and given them to the dog, and Sophie eats them. Let's go look at the back beds now. Man, that sun is brutal, and I think the temperature's gone up at least 10 degrees since the sun popped out. This bed right here is empty, but I will be filling it in the next few weeks, again, once that temperature starts breaking, so I can start getting in some fall crops. I'm thinking maybe I'll do carrots in this bed, but I did carrots last year. I also did radish in this bed, so maybe I'll do carrots and radish, or spinach or lettuce, or I'll have to figure it out. But this bed will be getting reused, and mostly because it's close to the gate, so I don't have to walk too far. It's close and convenient. It's right in the path of people walking back and forth, that kind of thing. Back here was a bed that I turned around and put all of my, if you remember earlier in the year, I had the potatoes in bags that I was growing. And when I harvested them, I didn't know what to do with all that potting soil. So I put all the potting soil into this bed, knowing that it was going to be devoid of nutrients, theoretically. I didn't run any soil tests. I'm not a soil analyst or expert, but I'm just going with the assumption that the potatoes had drawn all the nutrients out of the potting soil that it could as it was growing. So when I emptied the soil into here, I figured it was pretty devoid of nutrients. I added in a lot of slow release fertilizers, and I mixed all that into the thing. I mixed in some grass clippings, because when they break down, apparently they release nitrogen, which is good for the soil. And I planted some, I believe these are called Sugar Baby bush watermelons. And I have 3 growing right now, which is pretty cool and exciting. I believe they'll all be ready for harvest here probably in the next, again, couple of weeks. I should have an abundance of watermelons. So if any of my local family would like some watermelons, please leave a comment below. Because I'll have plenty. I know my neighbors across the street will probably like them. Once this bed is done, what I'll probably wind up doing, since I can see the soil has settled, is I'll probably wind up topping it off, and again using this bed for fall crops, radish or carrots or lettuce or spinach or something along those lines. But this bed will also be getting used. Way back here, I have my sweet potatoes. Now the vines have gotten knocked back a bunch of times due to the deer. They've gotten into the veg garden, they've eaten the vines back, sometimes the whole bed, sometimes only around the perimeter. Either way, the vines keep growing prolifically. In fact, I need to cut some of these vines back because from what I understand, if you keep the vines relatively short, it puts the energy into the potatoes themselves, which I'm hoping come out awesome this fall. Right now, I seem to have some insect damage on them. Whatever insect damage is on here doesn't seem to be affecting the overall growth of the vine. Let's look at this side. Way back here, I have one of my wife's beds, and in the front over here, I have cinnamon basil growing. And again, we just grew it for the insects. It has beautiful purple flowers on it. And I just recently cut it back. So hopefully it produces another flush of purple flowers so that again, insects can enjoy it right up until frost. I have Mexican sour gherkin growing back here, which has been very slow and very, I don't know, it just doesn't look like anything. Maybe as the temperature cools and it gets a little more rain, it'll start producing some fruit, but right now, pretty sad and weak. The star of the show in this bed, though, has been the birdhouse gourds, which have grown up the back trellis, the fence extension that I made. It's done very well, and it's produced a lot of fruit, but I think it's petering out at this point. It's also grown along the front fence, which it still seems to be trying to grow. It's running out of fence line to grow on. The gourds themselves haven't seemed gotten particularly large, and I don't know if there'll be another growth expansion or growth burst, or if maybe more flowers will come out again as the temperature cools into September, and maybe there'll be another round of birdhouse gourds. But they've overall seemed pretty small this year, and I'm not 100% sure why, because I planted the gourds earlier in the year when it wasn't so hot before the heat wave. So I'm not quite sure why, but it looks like I've got quite a few gourds, at least 2 dozen, and we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next few months. So the bed in front over here is not being used for anything, and it's sunken down quite a bit. What I'm going to do is use some homemade compost, fill this bed up a little bit, top it off with the bagged raised bed mix. The reason being is because I don't trust my own compost not to have weed seeds in it. Compost you make at home, unless it gets hot enough, can have weed seeds in it, and then you could have a problem with weeds growing in your space, ground, beds, whatever. I typically take that compost that I'm making and I'll put it out into the lawn areas, maybe around a fruit tree or some other place where the soil needs improvement or leveling, that kind of thing. And that's what I'll use that for. So if weeds do grow, I don't care, it gets mowed down by the lawnmower. But again, since it's sunken down so low, I will take some of that compost, put it in here, and then probably about 3 inches of bagged compost, bagged raised bed mix right on top. And what we're gonna do with this bed next year is I'm gonna start gladiolus, growing the gladiolus in here. So theoretically, by next fall, I should have a plethora of gladiolus to either plant out in my own garden or even perhaps sell. That'd be fun. That'd be real fun. So we'll have to wait and see. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified when I do post a new video. So this way you can hopefully see when I do all of this stuff. So let's move on to the last 2 beds and then wrap this video up. Fall can't come soon enough. Whew, I am really dying to crack on with a lot of projects that require a lot of physical activity that I do not want to be doing in this kind of heat. My 2 herb beds, that's what these are. From what you can see here on camera, I have my basil here, which I've pruned back numerous times, and I'd probably like to get one more load of pesto out of these before they finally go over. I've been fighting back the flowers, but I think we may be kind of done here. From my understanding, maybe some of you are familiar with this, but I know that the basil starts getting a little bitter once it starts flowering. And I've read that if you, when you make your pesto, if you put a little bit of sugar in it, it helps offset that bitterness. If you guys done that before, let me know. It still smells great. Oh, anyways, behind it here, I have the parsley. And now my parsley grew wonderfully. I didn't do much with it. I picked a little for dinner one night or two. But overall didn't do much with it. And I didn't dry it or, I didn't dry it or I didn't freeze it this year. One, I was a little too busy doing other things, and B, I just, you kind of get that little garden burnout. I got a little bit of that this year, and the basil and the parsley I just kind of let go. But the parsley eventually got eaten back by swallowtail caterpillars. But that being said, it's growing back now, which is probably one of the coolest things I like about parsley, is it is a robust plant. I can cut it back, slash it back, it will regrow. The swallowtail caterpillars will come along, they will eat it down, and it will reflush, which is awesome. And most of the caterpillars are done now, so all it's going to do is just grow now. What I think I may wind up doing is either transplanting some of this or growing new this winter in the greenhouse. From my understanding again, is that parsley is a cold hardy herb, so I can, as long as you don't get super freezing cold temperatures, it will grow. So I'm going to try that this winter, I think, in the greenhouse. I'm going to try to grow some parsley. We'll see what happens. I'll experiment. If any of you guys have done this before, if you think I'm barking up the wrong tree, if you have any comments, please leave them below. In front over here, I have my sage and rosemary and thyme bed, and it was doing fabulous until recently, and now it's gotten hit with something, and it kind of looks like, I don't know, webbing. It looks like there's poop in the webbing. If you guys have any idea what kind of bug is doing this, let me know. But I think what I'm going to do is probably get rid of the rosemary. I have other rosemary growing out in the garden. And I'll get rid of the sage, any of the plants that seem to be packed. It doesn't seem to be bothering the thyme. So I think I will dig up the thyme and move it into the greenhouse for the winter. Maybe the oregano. Is the oregano still alive back in there? Yeah, a little bit. So maybe I'll do that, dig them up, transplant them, put them in the greenhouse for the winter, and replant them, because I'm going to have to refill both these beds come the springtime. They're both sinking down. Let's wrap up this video because it's far too hot out here. Well, that's about it for my veg garden tour. I did skip over some things such as the plants here in front of the greenhouse and what I have going over on the potting bench and the citrus trees. But it's hot out, and I don't want to bore you guys too much with me prattling on more than I already have. But if you'd like to see maybe what's going on with my citrus trees or what's on the potting bench or anything like that, please leave those comments below. Who knows? Your suggestion might become the next video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to be notified of when I do post up a new video. It might be something that you're interested in, or it might not be. I don't watch every single video that I'm subscribed to on YouTube. Sometimes I wind up skipping because it looks like it's going to be a depressing video from the creator, or it's something that I'm not interested in, and it might be the same for you. But if you're subscribed and you hit that bell icon, you'll be notified. You go check it out yourself and say, oh, I want to watch Jason stumble around the veg garden or the flower garden or the rose garden or whatever it may be. Oh, Sophie would sure appreciate it, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would. Oh, she is getting bigger. I think she's now up to 12 pounds. That's crazy. We got her at 5 pounds. She's growing up. Please check out all the links below. I have links to merchandise. I have links to all sorts of other stuff, social media included. So please check out those links in the description below. And I think that's going to be about it for today. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. It's hot. I'm going into the air conditioning. I'll see you guys later.